And we took a step back about a year ago and spent some time with our partners and made the right decision to go to North Monroe so that we were closely connected with our medical mile and with other medical and bioscience that's going on in the medical mile. So it was a very important time for Spectrum. We think it's a very important time for the city. So let's talk a little bit about our goals here. So the first really is around workplace strategy. Mr. Kelly, you alluded to it. The pandemic certainly has been a springboard to a hybrid workplace. This CTI campus, and you'll hear more later, can house up to 1,600 people in terms of workspaces, but we believe it will support a whole lot more. We have over 5,000 non-patient facing employees at Spectrum, and we expect this to be the destination, not only for the employees that will work here from day to day, but it will allow tremendous flexibility for our employees and our strategic partners across West Michigan to call this their home. So we expect it to be a vibrant and exciting place for people to come together and gather. The second item is around clinical growth. We have grown at a pace to support the health of our community in a very significant way. The medical mile will continue to evolve. The medical center will continue to evolve. And we were at a point where we had clinical programs competing with our clinical growth. And so this CTI project, in close proximity to the medical mile, will allow us to regenerate existing real estate at the medical center. And you'll see more exciting projects coming forward in the future on the medical mile. And this project allows us to do that. The third item is operating efficiency. In the past, or actually current state today, we are in about 28 buildings across Greater Grand Rapids. And this will allow us to reduce our footprint and bring our teams together. And by doing so, that will allow us to lower our operating expenses and make healthcare more affordable. This controlled expansion is extremely important. Some of you, I'm sure, are very aware of our integration potential with Beaumont, and this allows for a lot of flexibility for growth and making this the home for Spectrum Health. In terms of community, obviously there have been a number of other strategic partners who have invested in this area of Grand Rapids, in the heart of the city. And we believe it's important, again, to be closely connected with medical and with other bioscience organizations along the medical mile. The final item is around connectedness, and it's really being closely connected with our strategic partners, not just our medical and bioscience partners. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here on our workplace strategy guiding principles, but I'll talk about a few of those here. At the onset of the project, we wanted to make sure we clearly understood our vision and what our guiding principles were in driving this important project. This project will cost over $100 million in investment. And one of the most important aspects is health focus. So we want to make sure that we have a campus where the campus is the workplace, not an individual desk. So we're going to be allowing and providing our staff choice, where they can connect on innovation and transformational things. One minute they might be on the 8th floor of the campus, the next minute they might be in our outdoor pavilion working as a team. So this health focus is really important, really being closely connected with the outdoors. Obviously a really important aspect is innovation in industry leading, and we feel that we're at the front of that in comparison to other healthcare systems across the country. And then heightened connectivity is extremely important, really getting our leaders out of their private offices and making themselves visible, which in turn allows our staff to be closely connected with our leadership team. I want to emphasize just really how close this is to the medical center, and quite frankly, Mr. Kelly mentioned this, we're truly extending the medical mile to the north. And this really is an indication of that on the site map in terms of how closely connected it is. So this is a site plan indicating our intention on the first phase. As noted, that first phase will be about a $100 million investment. And for those that are familiar with North Monroe, you'll see Embassy Suites there in the lower left portion of your slide. And also just to the east of Embassy Suites is their parking structure. And so our intent is to build a new parking structure just south of the Embassy Suite parking structure and build a new 8-story tower just south of Embassy Suites. The CTI campus then will be connected with an activation bridge that will be connected to a modernized brassworks. And so this campus will provide 350,000 square feet of space. This will also have an outdoor pavilion and in other areas and other spots for employees to work. If any of you have driven by the old manufacturing site, you'll see that the manufacturing site is completely demolished and then graded. And it is ready for the next phase of this project. So in short order, you'll see a new parking structure that will support the campus initially built there on that old manufacturing site. Another point I want to bring up is the fact that we own approximately 10 acres of contiguous space in this area. And this is really the beginning of a lot of exciting growth in the North Monroe area. And so this will really be an accelerant to continued growth and drive other amenities that will be necessary to support this campus along with other businesses in this area community. You'll see an option in how it can grow. We're still trying to evaluate what that might look like. Residential housing has been a conversation. We do know that is a need. We know our residents have a need for more residential housing in close proximity to the medical center. But you'll see how a future building could be established. This is that flexibility that's extremely important. And then you can see how a linear building could go along Ottawa and along Newberry. So let's look at a few renderings. This is one of the latest renderings of what that 8-story building will look like, tucked in just south of Embassy Suites. You can see the connector bridge and connected to a modernized brassworks. That connector bridge will be a 2-story bridge, and it will also have workspace in it. So an employee could actually work on that bridge and enjoy beautiful views, either of the river to the west, or will have visibility to the medical center and medical mile to the east. This is another rendering if you're standing on Boundary Street and you're looking northwest toward the river. And you'll see how that 8-story building is tucked in there, and then you'll see how the drop-off will be accessed from the division onto Fairbanks. So let's talk a little bit about the numbers. From an economic impact perspective, as noted, our intent is to create or bring together 1,800 full-time jobs to this location. And we anticipate bringing 350 more people to the Grand Rapids, to the city of Grand Rapids. Another important aspect is our inclusion plan, where we intend to target over $7 million toward the inclusion plan. From a connectedness perspective, again, we already talked about why it's so important to be closely connected to the medical mile and to the medical center. And then another aspect, again, is the initial phase of the project, 350,000 square feet. And again, this will be an event center that will help hold up to 500 employees in a learning and innovation center. So this will be a great destination for us to bring other healthcare workers from across our healthcare system in West Michigan to Grand Rapids. And then we also talked previously about the healthcare benefit. Again, another rendering if you're standing on Monroe and you're looking toward the east and how you would access it from that side.
I think that was mine.
All right, so I don't know if you want to open it up to questions now or later, Mr. Kelly.
Well, why don't we get into the specifics of the request for the board so they kind of know what they understand what's being asked of them, and then we can open up for general questions.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Alan. Maybe just two things to underline that Alan mentioned. One was, he mentioned that they were very far along in exploring Leffingwell as the location for this campus, and I think it's a testament to them, but also a number of folks in the community that participated in having that conversation with them, and really a testament to the Spectrum team that they were able to listen about the importance of meeting downtown.
So I wanted to make sure that was highlighted. The other is that we talked a lot about connections there. The Spectrum team has been very intentional about working with neighbors, both in Belknap as well as Monroe North. They're active at the Business Association. They're actively participating in our River Hill and Network Plan to be a part of that, as well as the 6th Street, Canal Street Master Plan. So they're very much coming to the neighborhood to be a part of the neighborhood. So I just wanted to make sure that was highlighted as well. So let's get into the details of what is being asked of you this morning. So I think a good place to start here is with a conversation about our boundary. So often when we talk about our boundary, for all intents and purposes, this is what we look at. This is our current Dda Boundary. But technically our boundary is actually made up of several different sub-districts, all the way from A to P. And those districts all have different base years, or many of them have different base years, and they also have different what we call capture areas. And so, for example, District A, which is our first district that was formed in 1980. And then our most recent expansion, which included districts L and NLP, that's N and kind of hard to see. Those were done in 2016. So there's a pretty big variety in both when the base years were created. Within that, and maybe just a little more nuance, is that we have areas where we collect tax income and revenue from, and we also have areas where we don't. On this map, what's shown is the areas that are colored are where we capture, the areas that are not highlighted, or where we do not. So that can happen intentionally by drawing some of these areas out, as was done in most of the areas on the map you see here. That's primarily because these are institutional users that don't pay property tax that we would capture revenue from. Another reason that we would not capture is because of other different sub-districts and economic development layers. And this is a mess of a map by design. This Monroe North area has a lot going on in terms of a smart zone, in terms of brownfields. There are corridor improvement areas that come down or adjacent to it. The important piece here is just that there's a lot happening. And kind of going back to the idea of this goal 4 and GR4 is that as we're looking at these big projects, it's really about what's going to work best for the project in order for it to come forward. It's not necessarily about who is bringing it forward. So we work collaboratively, obviously with the Spectrum team, but really closely with the city and some of our other partners to identify what was going to be best for this project. What has been put forward and what's being recommended is a brownfield plan amendment that will allow Spectrum to be reimbursed for eligible activities. For that to happen, the Smart Zone had to agree to remove parcels, and what's before you this morning is a request to remove one parcel from the Dda Boundary. The important thing to underline, I think, for you all is that we do not currently capture any revenue from that parcel because the DDA expanded in this area in 2007, which was after the Smart Zone was approved in 2002. So the Smart Zone was in place before the DDA expanded. So That's really what's at the crux of the ask for you this morning, is to approve that resolution to remove this one parcel, which is 710 Monroe Avenue Northwest. It's currently the Embassy Suites Hotel, from our capture boundary. It would still stay within our area where we could spend and support, but again, we don't, and we would in the future not collect revenue from it. So just in closing, and maybe a couple other highlights, the Smart Zone, as I said, approved this action at their meeting last week. If the board does approve this resolution, it would then go to the City Commission. They would have to approve the amendments to the boundaries for the Smart Zone and the DDA. They would also have to approve the Brownfield Plan Amendment that's going to the Brownfield Board Authority at the end of this month. That's a lot. There's a lot of technicalities and administrative actions going on there, so I think I'll stop and let you all ask any questions you have.
Can you start over?
Yeah, sure. Where do you want me to go?
So,
Mayor?
thank you, Chair. So, just two things. One, the Economic Development Project team yesterday heard a presentation that includes myself and two commissioners. And there was, at least during the EDBT meeting, there was support to move forward. So I just wanted to let everyone know that this has been brought forward to the EDBT. And then as it goes through the process, it'll come back to the full commission, as Tim indicated. And then my question, Tim, is, I'm just curious, not necessarily for this project, it's a little complicated, but it makes sense to me. I used to serve on the Smart Zone too, so I understand all the different moving parts. But when we come to removing or adding parcels, remind me, is it project specific typically, or can we also take up a larger view at that complicated map and rethink it? Because I know yesterday we were given an update on the Smart Zone, and they're taking this opportunity to also remove other parcels that they had added in, actually when I was on the board. They are now deciding to remove those as well, even though they're not technically related to this project.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just curious, is this an opportunity for us to look at other parcels we want to potentially remove or add, or does that have to happen through another process?
So it could be both, and we did, and I might lean on Jessica a little bit as well, but we did look at opportunities to either add or remove during this process. It goes through a different path to do that for the DDA, and so for this project, we felt like this was the most streamlined approach to do it. That said, we could amend our plan, and we could also look at the map at any point. It has to go through a process to do that. The board has to approve it. It has to go to the City Commission. Then the public hearing component. So I guess the plan amendment and a boundary amendment are different paths. We felt like for this specific project to support it and stay in line with timing of everything else that's going on, this was the best approach to do it.
Okay, that's all. Thanks.
Did I miss anything?
No, that's right, and there's actually some cleanup to do with regard to the boundary. But again, in light of sort of the pressing nature of this and how it's going to take a while as it is, we thought that might be best to wait on, so.
Member Talley?
Thank you, Chair. Tim, your last comment kind of emphasized even more of this question. You said plan amendment versus boundary amendment. What I'm curious about is, do we have to get approval or consent from our funding partners for a plan amendment? So from the county and GRCC, we don't have to get that consent for removal of or change in the boundaries. Can you talk a little bit about that complication?
Well, I'll let Jessica jump in.
Yeah, so there's a whole procedure there for amending the district, which is what we're doing. And actually, it does send you right back to the beginning as if you're initially forming the district. We have a step sheet here if you want to see. And it does involve certainly notifying the other taxing jurisdictions and everything. But because we're removing properties, there's no opportunity to opt out. And frankly, they'll certainly be a part of this engagement process, but beyond that, it's not going to impact them much. It's different from adding new properties, in other words.
Because adding enables you to opt out.
Of the new area.
Right.
But there's nothing like that you can do.
We're not adding,
Okay,
right,
I guess that
yeah.
makes sense. Thank you.
Yep. Good question, though.
Member Mueller?
Just for language change, could you explain why we don't capture any revenue on the site currently?
So currently, we don't capture because the smart zone is ahead of the DDA. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Chair, I don't necessarily have another question. I do just want to say a couple words to Al publicly. I know I said this yesterday and sort of some of my colleagues, but I think it's important to say around this table as well. One, really appreciate Spectrum being willing to rethink and come downtown versus out at Leffingwell. I think this is a transformational project for North Monroe, and this investment is significant, so thank you. And then I just also want to draw our attention to their commitment to using MLBE for a significant portion of their spend and build. That commitment on the front end is really appreciated, and I think again it'll have a huge impact on our local economy. So thank you.
Can you remind us of the opening date estimated?
Late summer of 2023.
Yes.
This is more of a comment or a thought, as I have been thinking about like transportation, like traffic count, things like that. This one there would be nice to arrive on a light rail system, but
We'll add that to the list.
Any other questions or comments? Then I would entertain a motion to approve.
Support board.
Okay, we have a motion. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you all. All right,
That's all we got.
now it's up to you.
Yeah. From a executive director report, I did include in your packet, so I won't read through all of it, but did want to highlight a couple things for you. First, maybe I'll start with some project updates. One, the founding board of the River Governance entity has had their first meeting. They met back in September, and that work is very much happening in earnest. That group is now in the conversations around forming committees and task forces. We're going to be looking at a number of different things, but just wanted to highlight that the work is moving forward and that the DGRI and the DDA are well represented around that table. So we'll certainly keep you all posted as that moves along. On the Lion Square, just continuing to keep that top of mind. We are still in our holding pattern for a permit from Eagle. We submitted about 4 months ago. Our hope and expectation is that we'll hear something this year so that we could still be under construction in the spring, but we are still waiting to get a response on our submittal. The wayfinding redesign is moving along in earnest as well. We are getting some mock-ups here to look at what a redesigned system could look like, and then the team is also examining the content as well as locations. That includes a redo of the Skywalk wayfinding system. So that work will start early in the next year, and we'll give you a report out as soon as the final plans are done. And then lastly, two things that were before you recently. I mentioned the Hill and River Network Plan. That committee met last week to kick off that work with some of our partners up in Monroe North, as well as the Smith Group team, who you all approved a contract for. And then the Van Andel Arena Alley also had a meeting last week to get that process started, meeting with adjacent landowners and stakeholders. So that work is happening. So good things are underway in the fall, and we'll make sure that you're aware as things continue. A couple of other administrative things I wanted to highlight. One, at our DGRI Board of Advisors meeting at the end of September, we did approve an extension of our lease in this location. So we are not going to be moving anytime soon. We will be looking at some of the decor and some of our view sheds out the windows here to see if we can do any improvements. But we will be staying put for the foreseeable future. And then last but certainly not least, wanted to highlight that we do have 3 new staff members, 2 of whom are with us this morning. So I want to introduce James Peacock, the third, who's our River Opportunity Organizer, Economic Opportunity Organizer. And then Kenzie Channing has stepped in as our manager of neighborhood experience, so she'll be working really closely with the DNN. Our other hire, Corey Mathine, is project manager. He's not here this morning, but you will be seeing more of him around. Corey was an intern with us over the summer, was at GVSU, and so we're happy to have him on full time now. I think those were the main things I wanted to highlight, but if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Just to verify what I was reading, no meeting in November, next week is December.
No, where'd you see that? Oh, sorry. Are you looking at the TGRI? We are planning to have a November meeting for the DDA.
Okay, all right. And then any updates on the air quality project?
Yes. In fact, Darren was planning to be here this morning. Fell ill, but he will be here next month to give an update on that. The dashboard is set up. The sensors are out. We have new data, and so he'll be here next month to give a report out on how that's going. Thanks for calling that out.
Any other questions for Tim?
One question.
Yes.
Do we anticipate getting some sort of report out from our prize and the impact of our prize on both the downtown economy and more broadly?
We do. Yeah, we are. We're helping pull some of the pedestrian count data and some of the other sort of activation things that occurred. So we're working with the enterprise team, giving them some information to put the report together. And yeah, they will come and give a full report.
It would be nice to compare it to 2018.
When was that?
19 was I think it'd be a good comparison for 19 as
The
well.
last.
But 18 was the
last art prize.
It'd just be interesting to see. It felt pretty crowded.
I would say anecdotally, I think it was a strong showing.
Yeah.
A success.
Yeah, the downtown hotels are very happy our prize occurred.
Good.
So
Good. Yeah, preliminarily the data looked really good.
Are they also going to provide some feedback on the changes they made, like with the
voting.
disbursement of the dollars differently?
Oh.
Which I actually thought was great, but
Yeah.
I'm curious their perspective.
We can give a full overview of how the event went. Yeah.
Yeah, there were some comments from artists, the difficulty of the vote, understanding the vote process.
Okay.
So I don't know if they're looking at that. But,
Yeah, we'll bring him here. Craig, the executive director of our prize, we've been in touch with
so
him.
we can grill them.
Yeah, put him in the hot seat.
Yeah. No, it was good.
Yeah.
Anything else on that or other? Now is for public comment. If there's anyone in the public that would like to comment, now's your chance. All right, seeing none. Board member discussion. Anything top of mind? Would be nice to discuss. Yes?
Chair, I'll just make mention that Grand Rapids Public Schools is currently in our strategic planning process. This month we are gathering input on our first draft of our key themes for the district, and so community input sessions are happening this month. There are at least 4 more, so if you're interested and available to participate and give feedback, head on over to grps.org and you can find those input sessions.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if now it's an appropriate time. I wanted to introduce our new associate at Dickinson Wright. This is Davina Bridges.
Hello.
And we're really excited to have her. And I'm trying to get her to do municipal law, so.
Welcome.
Make these meetings exciting.
Or not.
You look excited.
She seems enthused, right?
Anything else? Yes.
I was wondering where, in the timeline wise, where's the Amway project? Like
Which Amway part?
Yeah, we might ask you.
I'm happy to report the crane was removed successfully without incident, so that's good. The road will be blocked, the entire length was 2 weeks, so we're maybe 1 week, almost 1 week into it, so that they can, they had to take the crane off, and then now they need to replace the roof where the crane is sitting, so that'll take another week. And then I think the street should be open back up. But we're basically down to the third and fourth floor, which are the final guest room floors. Yeah, so we're very excited, yeah. Yeah, all right. Seeing no more comments, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
That might be the fastest. That
In
was
a
40
while, I agree.
minutes. 40 minutes.